Hey guys, Audrey here with Flawless Crested Geckos. Today we're going to talk about some of the reasons why you may or may not should get a reptile. Now, specifically for us, we're going to talk about crested geckos, but a lot of these things go across the board with reptiles in general. But today, like I said, specifically, let's go over why you should or should not be getting a crested gecko. Number one, commitment and responsibility. Crested geckos live anywhere from 15 to 20 years. It's their typical life expectancy. So that's a pretty long commitment for somebody. If you are going to purchase an animal such as a crested gecko that has such a long lifespan, you need to be willing to make the commitment to them and take the responsibility for them to give them the best life possible for their entire life. Now, of course, obviously there are reasons why you would, say rehome a crested gecko, such as maybe you're a breeder and you sell them. You vet responsible keepers and responsible buyers and make sure they're going to good homes. Or maybe you have fallen on hard times and can't provide for your crested geckos, so you rehome them. Maybe you're moving and can't take them where you're going. There are many different reasons why people would need to rehome a crested gecko, but for the most part, we need to, when we purchase these animals, we make that commitment to taking care of something or someone that can't take care of themselves. They're helpless without you. You need to take that commitment seriously and be responsible for it. So, first reason why you should not get a crested gecko is if you're not willing to put in the commitment and take the responsibility for taking care of them their entire lives. Number two reason why you should never consider getting a reptile or crested gecko, and that's time and attention. Crested geckos are really low maintenance animals, but they still do require some attention, such as regular feeding schedules. We feed our guys twice a week, and sometimes we'll throw in a third meal there. It just depends on the week. If we go through them and we find that they've just eaten the crap out of their Pangea or Pasture or crested gecko diet, and we'll maybe stick a little extra in there, especially for those growing babies or those breeding mamas and breeding daddies. Obviously, we have a very large collection, so ours takes a little bit more time than your average keeper or hobbyist, but time is important. Feeding them on a regular schedule, maintaining their environment, cleaning routines. That's very, 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 very important to keep their space around them clean. You also want to have time to monitor your babies. A lot of times you can get into situations where if you're not keeping a close eye on them, they can become sick before you even realize what's going on. And they deteriorate very fast if they become sick. So keep an eye on your babies. You need to be, looking at them, seeing them. They need to be visually inspected. So that does take time. So just make sure that you have enough time in your daily routine to give your little crestie a little love. Number three reason why you should not get a crested gecko. If you are not willing to set them up a good space and a good home. Now, this is one of those things that we could debate it all day long about what is good and what is bad, and what is proper husbandry, what is not. But I'm not here to argue on whether rack systems or bioactives or tub setups or whatever you may choose is good or bad. We can all coexist, okay? But the most important thing to remember about crested geckos is they're arboreal creatures, which means they like higher spots. So they need a vertical climbing space. Give them some hides, make sure they have plenty of space to go up and down as they see fit, as they wish. And again, make sure it's very clean. So if you don't have the proper home for them, you shouldn't be getting a crested gecko. That needs to be prepared for in advance before purchasing one. Number four reason why you should never get a crested gecko, and that's if you don't like feeding live insects. Now, across the board, there are some crested geckos that just won't eat insects. And You know, for the majority of the time, cresties eat a powdered fruit. It's a commercially produced diet. We utilize all the different diets: Pangea, Repashy, BP Zoological. You know, there are plenty of diets out there that we have yet to try but plan to try. Make sure you're providing that proper nutrition. Crested gecko diets in general have a lot of the things in them that the cresties need already, that you do not need to add anything extra. That being said, a good calcium dusted cricket, calcium dusted red runner, dubia roaches, things like that. Are you comfortable with actually feeding your cresties live insects? If you're not, you need to pause and decide whether you really want to get into crested geckos or not. Especially, and this is a big thing, if you are planning to breed your crested geckos, they must have those insects with that calcium dusted or that calcium dust on them. You're going to deplete their calcium if you're consistently breeding them and not giving them that type of nutrition. So be comfortable with that before you ever consider getting a crested gecko to begin with. Number 5 reason why you should not get a crested gecko is if you like to handle your pets a ton. If you're one who likes to carry around your bearded dragon on your shoulder, or you are one that likes to carry your puppy everywhere you go, or snuggle with your puppy or kitty or whatnot, crested geckos are not it. They are solitary creatures, number 1, and they are more of a let's look at you, and even sometimes they don't want you to look at them. That will absolutely stress them out. They are primarily what we like to call display animals. Beautiful animals to watch and let them interact with their environment that they're in and enjoy the beauty of them. But they are not animals that you just need to handle all the time. That can absolutely stress a crestie out. A lot of people we have contact us ask, my crested gecko, they're not eating at all. They're just kind of not active anymore. And one of the first things I ask them is, do you handle them a lot? Are you getting them out constantly? Are you, hovering over the top of them? Are you watching them like this constantly? All of those things can legitimately stress your gecko out. You are very much a predator to them. They are prey animals. So when they see you and you're constantly doing that, you're constantly holding them and pulling and tugging on their crests and petting them and rubbing them, that absolutely can stress them out. So if you're looking for an animal that you can snuggle with and hold constantly and on a regular basis for hours at a time, crested geckos aren't for you. We like to call them our live Pokemon collection. Only take them out when you're ready to really show them off, or when you're, trying to get them at least comfortable with you being around. Number 6 reason why you should not get a crested gecko. Do you or your family members have allergies or sensitivities to certain animals? Crested geckos have their little suction cup-like little toesies and their little claws on them that when they grab onto your skin, they suction against your skin, and they can actually scratch your skin or irritate your skin. I end up looking like I have leprosy a lot of times when I've handled them a lot. I notice a lot of times it shows when I'm going to put our cresties in their little display boxes and all that I legitimately end up looking terrible on my skin from where they've picked up and suctioned to my skin. So if you are super sensitive or have super bad allergies, like say to crickets or the calcium powder or anything, you might want to think twice about having a crested geckos. Now, some people are like, you know what, screw this allergy, I don't even care, I want them, they're therapeutic to me, I'm good. And if that's you, then more power to you, because I know I will never get rid of my crested geckos just because they make my skin look like I got a disease of some sort. Number 7 reason why you should not get a crested gecko is, are you prepared to deal with the cost of crested geckos? A lot of people think, oh, I can run to this show or whatever and I can grab up a crestie for $80 and that's all they're that inexpensive. Like, that's all I gotta spend. No, wrong. Not it, okay? Number one, you need to put some money into having a terrarium or a tub setup or whatever is your choice to set them up in housing. And that does cost money. You know, you're at least going to spend $50 to $100 on stuff like that. Unless, of course, somebody is you know, giving it to you, or you happen to find a really good deal on one somewhere. But also, you got to think about the food, the live insects that you're going to purchase every week, and also any potential problems, any potential diseases that may arise, or potential issues like an animal gets caught in its door of its terrarium, or an animal gets out and then your other family pets gets a hold of it. It's going to need veterinary care. We rarely have to visit our vet. We visit our vets usually for well checks for our cresties when we're going for health certificates for like shows and things like that. But as far as on a regular, cresties are pretty healthy, are pretty hardy and healthy and resilient animals. They don't have a whole lot of issues, but you just need to be prepared for the cost in case they do. I see a lot of posts on Facebook where cresties have gotten into something, or they're having problems with like a sore or something they've picked themselves on maybe the side of their terrarium, or maybe they've, you know, I don't know, something's got in their terrarium and they've been bitten. Things like that can actually happen, very much so, and you have to be prepared for the cost of a vet visit. So make sure you're prepared for the cost of owning a crestie if you plan to have one. Number 8 and final reason why you should not buy a crested gecko. That's if you're not willing to put in the research and you're not willing to educate yourself on what you're actually getting into. You need to research their care, you know, their environment, their habitat, their habits. You need to research, you know, their general care, their nutrition, you know, their background. You should know a little bit about your animal's background. You should know about their proper humidity requirements. These are all things that you should know prior to buying into crested gecko. So that being said, research. Get on YouTube. There are tons and tons and tons of videos here on our channel that you can go through and look. We have question and answers. We have information, just general information about cresties and the thought processes behind keeping, behind breeding. You just need to put in the time, the education, and the research before you just run and grab an animal that you don't know a whole lot about. Cresties are super hardy. They're super resilient. They're tough little lizards, but you just definitely need to know before you get them, because you don't want that animal to suffer at all in any stretch of the imagination because you're learning. So that being said, you know, we all make mistakes, and we all learn things that we didn't know, and most of us have the best of intentions when we buy animals to be our forever pets. But you just want to take into consideration a lot of these topics that I've talked about before you go and purchase a crested gecko. And if you're not willing to do all of them, then you probably shouldn't get a pet at all. But this one's about cresties, so if you're not willing to do the time, don't buy them. It's just not fair to them. So that's all I've got for you today. If you have any questions about general care or husbandry or any of those things, if you're getting into breeding and you know, want to reach out, we would love to have you. Also, remember, we also offer our Patreon for those of you who are serious about taking it to the next level. We do have our Patreon. If you go over to Patreon/Flawless Crested Geckos, you can see all of the benefits there for our subscription-based platform. All of our patrons, they love being a part of the Flawless family, and we'd love for you guys to join. It's for the beginner all the way up to the expert keeper of crested geckos. So we'd love to have you at the Flawless family. But if that's not your thing and you are just passing through and watching our videos, we would love for you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. I think it's somewhere in this general region, something like that. But anyway, I appreciate you listening to me today, and I hope that these topics brought a little bit of awareness to whether or not you should be getting into reptiles, but specifically cresties. We love our cresties. And I will catch you later. I'm out.